Welcome to the Blonde Runner podcast with Coach Laura Erickson, where she shares her healthy living tips as a running and triathlon coach and mother of 4.
Okay, you guys, I need you to tell me what you think healthy living means. What does healthy living mean?
Well, I would say to begin with that, for me, healthy living means, beneficial and good in multiple aspects of life. And there's, a lot of aspects of life, and you can go into a lot of those because there's tons of different areas. But I like to stick to the Bible in Luke 2:52, where it talks about how Jesus grew in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man. And so that just gives you 4 really basic ones to focus on. And I think if you focus on those first, that's a good area. So that's your intellectual, your physical, your social, and your spiritual. And if you knock out those 4 things in a healthy manner, then that's a really good foundation to build off everything else.
I agree. So what do you think? I know a lot of people they would say mental is part of that too, which would that just tie into the intellectual component that you're talking about?
Well, I would say mental health is kind of its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of mental health is a direct result of other things in your life not being healthy. My personal belief is that if you have mental, your mental health is not great, the first thing that you should tackle is these other 4 things. Because if your physical is healthy, and your social is healthy, and your spiritual is healthy, and your intellectual is healthy, then typically your emotional/mental health usually is pulled up by the other ones. And if it's not, well, at that point you can address it specifically and be okay, is this something that I can do, or is this something that has to do with there's a physical component that needs to be addressed?
I get it. I see what you're saying. Oh, there's definitely, when I think of healthy living, I think of they're balancing, these 4 components you're talking about. It's kind of if you do too much of one, any one of them can be off balance, right? Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about for you, Scott? What are your thoughts on healthy living? I mean, I like that definition because it has the 4 components.
Well, I'm a rather literal person, so when I think of healthy living, I think of, okay, well, what do these words mean? And living, we're probably not going to consider living as anything more than just kind of how you are existing in the world. And so you want to, in order to live healthily, exist in a healthy state. And so what does it mean to be healthy? And I don't really know. I haven't considered that a whole lot, but
everybody's different too. What's healthy for you might not be as healthy for someone else.
I mean,
right?
You could consider being healthy as being at least close to what is intended in each area of your life. As in, you're financially healthy if you are...
Where would financial hit? Would be
that's
because you've got
see,
physical,
that's the question, is what does it mean to be
intellectual.
healthy? And
yeah,
I'm sure if you pulled up Webster's or any other dictionary, you'd get a variety of different definitions, but
I plugged it into Google.
You plugged it in?
Yes, I did,
Google.
And it says, as it applies to individuals, healthy living is the practice of healthy, enhanced behaviors, or put simply, living in healthy ways.
Well,
it implies
me,
physical, mental.
Yeah. I would just say that healthy living is the opposite of dying, right?
Well,
if you think about health,
well, you're not alive.
and sickness is
yeah.
If you're something that's dead and something that's alive, they're kind of antonyms. And so if you think that if you think of well, what's deathly living? I mean, it'd be you're extremely overweight, you hurt every time you move, you have 0 friends and 0 desire to do anything, you're really intellectually dumb, and you don't have any good ideas, and you have 0 connection to God and to to spiritual matters. If that's deathly living, for lack of a better term, what's the opposite of that?
Mm-hmm.
And then just start going towards that.
Perhaps functioning. Sorry, Griffin, keep going.
So you can build off this, Scott, but financially dying, right? Financial debt or financial dying is well, you are spending way more money at the end of the month than you're bringing in. You are...
It's not a healthy balance.
Making very little, like you're bringing little money in to begin with. You're taking on loads of debt, and you're just like making really poor financial habits. That would probably be like financial death or financially dying. So like, what's the opposite of that? Would be like, well, that's your quest to be financially healthy.
I would consolidate everything that Griffin just said into perhaps, if an area of life, an aspect of life is functioning properly or functioning as intended, then it's healthy. And to the degree that it's not, it's unhealthy. So if your finances are functioning and you're able to, I guess, function in a broader sense in the world because you have the financial resources, then you're financially healthy. Yeah. If you're unable to move or to walk or to do any of the things that would require a physical body, if you're unable to do those things, then you are physically, to some degree, non-functional or perhaps unhealthy. And so living healthily is trying to become functional in every aspect of your life and have...
As you are limited. I mean, when you were saying that, I was thinking, there are some people that, like Griffin's dad, for instance, is in a wheelchair. Like, he's limited physically. However, he can maximize his potential in a healthy way, right? Even though he doesn't have all.
Right. And so, while he can't function, like, why his legs don't function as intended, he can function in a broader sense because of other areas that can compensate for that, and the people that have built wheelchairs and all the other things that have gone on. Like, he can still function extremely effectively as a person, although he has one disadvantage.
Yeah, which everybody is. I mean, some people, like you were saying, Griffin, you were saying, like, some people emotionally, or maybe intellectually, they're not quite as bright as other people. Maybe they're not as creative, but they can still take advantage of what their possibilities are, right? And I think healthy living to me is intentionally living in a way that maximizes your own potential and your own, like, I think some people are more, my kids tend to be very introverted. So I'm like an outgoing introvert. So I function in my capacity the best when I'm out socializing and helping others and coaching and all those things. But whereas other people, even in my family, are introverted, that is not their thing. That doesn't make them feel like they're capitalizing on their abilities. Others are, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's different. Everybody's way of healthy living is different.
Yeah, I'd agree I agree with that statement to a degree. Like, there is definitely some flexibility, but I do think that there are some baselines of general health that you should, like, focus on.
Okay, I love that.
100%, like, some people are extroverted and some people are introverted. So some people require meeting new people. Like, for instance, Scott doesn't have as high of a natural proclivity towards extroversion that I do. Mm-hmm. So for me, I enjoy being in a room full of a bunch of people that I don't know. Now, if it's too big of a group, then I don't feel comfortable. But for some people who are just extreme extroverts, a room of 100 people of whom they've never met, that's like super, super, like, invigorating for them. But for me, it's like, oh, that's a little too much. If it's a smaller room, then perhaps that's something for myself. And, Scott would probably feel even less comfortable to a smaller number, to a smaller degree. But at the same time, like, the healthiness part of it is, like, you still need friends. Like, extroverts, introverts, whoever you are, you still need a group of friends. Like, you still need those social connections that give you social meaning. Like, that's a baseline that everyone needs, regardless of whether you're introverted or extroverted. And I would say, like, the same with physical. Like, some people have more proclivities to, weight or to, like, fat percentage or BMI or anything like that. And while there are individual differences, there is a difference. There is a baseline health of, like, okay, you need to be within this range to function properly. Mm-hmm. So, like, there is a range, but there's also a baseline to which everyone should, like, strive for.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very nuanced thing. I was actually reading a lot about introversion, extroversion yesterday and the different theories of it. So it's kind of serendipitous that this came up. But introversion and extroversion there's lots of theories as to what it really means, and nobody really agrees on it in an absolute sense. But generally, people define introverts versus extroverts as the amount of stimulation that is needed in order to be optimally functional, or to function as optimally as possible. And so extroverts need to have a large amount of stimulation that generally comes from people, but it's actually found in other areas of life as well. Whereas introverts, like if they were to take the same amount of stimulation as an extrovert, it would be entirely overstimulating. Like for me, like if I was to meet a group of people
it's too much.
and try to meet 6 different people at the same time, it's incredibly overstimulating, because I have to try and remember everybody's names, and I have to try and remember who they are and what they just said, and I have to deal with so much going on at once, where I like to
That's
focus.
not optimal.
That's not optimal for me. So that would be unhealthy for me, and for an extrovert that would be perfectly healthy. But that's because that's how they function best, and I, as an introvert, would best function under other circumstances. So it's like,
but you need to also put yourself out of a comfort zone too. I guess part of this, I think, comfort zone, but you gotta be realistic.
Why is your goal to be able to stomach more stimulation? And if so, like if you are unable to function in the world because you have too few of friends, like if that's something that's hindering your life because you don't have any friends, then it's like, yeah, you might need to take some steps to move outside of your bubble and figure stuff out. If your life isn't negatively affected by some of these things, right? You don't have to become more extroverted for the sake of becoming more extroverted. You don't have to become more introverted for the sake of becoming more introverted.
It's like embrace who you are.
It's like figure out if you're functioning properly, and if you're functioning improperly, then figure out what you need to do to fix it. But
it's interesting to talk about that.
But I would think, and obviously, like I just started talking about this, I haven't thought extensively about health, but if we're defining health as being able to function properly, then yeah, just look into your life and figure out what you would like to be able to do in the world that you're not able to do. In other words, you're not able to function in that domain properly, and then figure out what you could do to
improve it.
But then also realize that you don't have to be like other people that you admire in every aspect of their life.
Right? A lot of the people that I work with, we do goals, and being a life coach, I work with people in all these areas, because really I do a lot, being a coach with triathlon and running, I do a lot with physical health, but there's so many benefits of them taking care of their physical health that start trickling over into the mental health category and things. But I do believe it's super important to be purposeful in what you're doing. I know, like with you, you're very good at, you live kind of in the world of your intellectual health. That's a very important thing to you. You do a lot with that, and you try to balance it with some physical things. I just think there's a huge importance of balancing them all, but not, how do you balance them all, I guess, is the question. Because like Griffin said, I believe this is true. Physical health, spiritual health, intellectual health, and then social health. You have to have a balance with all of them. And how do you do that? How do you achieve that?
People reach that in different ways. I mean, people have this need, this desire, base desire for adventure. It's found in all humans. But people go about adventure in different ways, and some people need to actually go and visit locations, right? So they're going to need to travel the world to scratch that itch and fulfill that need for adventure. But other people, like musicians, might find their sense of adventure just sitting on their couch with a guitar and working up and down the neck and creating new melodies and all of the other stuff that the musician might do. That's adventure to them. Mm-hmm. Some people that play video games, doing something in the video game, that's adventure to them. Every time they go in, there's some novelty, there's something new, there's some sense of adventure. Mm-hmm. Other people like me, I read books, and that's where I get my adventure, right? And so you don't have to adventure out into the world in the exact same way as somebody else, because hey, if I tried to go travel the world, I would probably end up pretty miserable.
That's not fun for you.
That wouldn't be me functioning other people, properly.
That is also not.
So that would be actually, and some people it would be healthy. For me, it would probably honestly be kind of unhealthy.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about it in terms of, are you functioning optimally? Probably not. So find out what you want to be able to do in the world, and then what's stopping you, and then figure out how you can become more functional. I think that's
Yeah.
being
So,
healthier.
but you have to look at your life. You have to figure it out. And like, how would you say goal setting, Griffin? Like, I'll ask you this: how do you feel like goal setting, or is goal setting something that you do as related to your healthy living goals per se?
I would say for healthy, you know, I like to do the 4 areas model, right? And I think you have to figure out what the balance is for yourself. I've mentioned that there is a baseline that you should kind of achieve, but then you need, after you've kind of hit that, you need to just, you know, figure out what it is that you enjoy and what does your balance look like. They might not share parts of your life equally in order to have balance. For instance, Scott has a imbalance in terms of like proportion, I would say, of the intellectual side of things. Now, he still has a base level of health in the other aspects of his life, which creates a balance that he needs, but his intellectual side is bigger than, for instance, the rest. And for some people, that might be the social aspect of their life that needs to take the highest of that. But once you've kind of identified what it is that you know, what categories hold more weight in your life, after that, you need to figure out, after that, you just need to, your attention needs to be on the one that is failing the most right now. So the common analogy for this principle is the balancing act, right? You go to a circus, you'll find someone who's spinning like 4 or 5 plates, right? And they're spinning their plates on sticks. It's like, well, how do you keep all the sticks going at the same time? Well, it's focus your attention on the stick that's wobbling the most, or the plate that's wobbling the most. And so whichever aspect of your life is suffering the most is the one that needs the most attention, because you need to get that one back up to, you know, baseline. And then after that, if you've gotten to a point where you've kind of got all of them going and none of them are needing a ton of attention right now, well, now you can start putting goals and start implementing other things that could, you know, maybe go beyond what it is that you just have. But I would say the biggest thing is, you know, you need to be constantly revising and always be focusing on the one that's struggling the most.
I like that. Because I think all of them are important. We do have a lot of things we're juggling, and a lot of people are juggling a lot more things. But I also think there's time and season for certain things in life. Like, I know when I was a mom at home, my life, that was a big portion of my life. But now my physical, you know, being able to train a lot more and having a lot more time has been able to take over a little bit more than that component. So, like, definitely there's times and seasons. And I was just thinking as he was saying that, Scott, I think the way you'd solve that is to create a software program that keeps all those plates spinning for you. You don't have to do it. No, just kidding. But I like that analogy because it gives you kind of a visual. Like, where are your wobbly plates in life, right? Where are the things that aren't quite functioning? And that's where, you know, a lot of people call me and say, hey, my physical isn't happening. I'm not taking care of it. And I've noticed with COVID, a lot of people have really mentally struggled with that. Why do you guys think that is? Why do you think that was such a hard thing for most people? I don't think you struggled so much, Scott. I think you were like, yes.
Bro, I've been social distancing since I was born.
So it was like, yes. What about you,
not a
Griffin?
problem for me.
But I think a lot of people emotionally struggled with that. Probably because of the social component was changed, right?
Well, anywhere from 2/3 to half of Americans are extroverted by nature.
Is that what it in your
depending
study?
on the study that you read.
Yeah.
And so if people need a lot of social stimulation for them to, like, be able to think properly and to just, like
I
feel
do not
any
understand
positive
that.
emotion at all, right? Like, because some people, if they're not in a large group, they're understimulated.
Yeah.
And so that's not going to, you're not going to feel as good in those circumstances.
Okay,
so,
I have a question for you. So intellectual is your thing. It's where you're at most of the time in your head. And I know that you go to the gym, you get that physical component. And then how do you tie in, I would say your wobbly plate would be the social, but it may be wobbling. It may not be that wobbly. It may be spinning just what you need it to be spinning, right? Because you still have those close friendships.
Well, it's like, do I need to? It's like, I'm not as social as some other people, but is it
a problem?
Inhibiting my ability to function properly in the ways that I intend in the world?
No.
Which for the Greeks is like...
Right, and a plate spinning is not, for instance, you're meeting 10 new people a day, right? The plate spinning is, are you functioning within the domain that you have, right? So for Scott, a plate spinning socially would not be, meeting 10 new people every single day. A plate spinning properly would be, getting to know a new person once a week, right? Or something like that. And so whatever that baseline is, that's your spinning plate. And so when you're not hitting that benchmark, that's when you need adjustment.
Well, maybe not a quantity sort of thing, but it's like, are you able to do this when you feel like you need to be able to do this? Because, like, for me, I have no problem cold messaging someone on LinkedIn if I want to build a relationship with someone that I think I would like to have a relationship with, right? Like, if I need to be social for the sake of being social because I have something I want to do, or I think this person could use my help, or whatever, I can do that. But I don't sit around and go like, man, I really want to go to a party right now so I can go and...
That's not your thing.
Like, no,
so your plate in social may be spinning perfectly for you and all aspects. So let's tie in I like to talk about the spiritual component a lot because while physical, it seems like you can create goals that are more tangible with physical because, your diet or exercise, spiritual, intellectual, okay, going to school, you're learning new things, you're reading new books, maybe you're listening to TED Talks. Those are good ways to intentionally live. And the social component, going to things, meeting people, that seems to be a little easier, I think, than the spiritual component seems to be less tangible. I guess you can set goals for yourself there too, like scripture reading. Not everybody really, in a general sense, believes in that type of, how do we tie in, I guess, what is that spiritual health component? How do we tie it in? How do we live healthy in that component, spiritual? What do you guys think?
With following Scott's line of thinking, it's derived from functionally your functional capacity to do something, right? Mm-hmm. And spiritually, the functional component of that would be salvation, right? A belief and an understanding that there is a life after death, and that the actions and desires of one in this life will lead to a attainment of something more in the next. And so if that's your understanding of, spirituality or the spiritual side of things, then it's functioning in the capacity of those things which will help you obtain that which you're aiming for, right? So in the broader sense of heaven versus hell, for those people that care enough or believe enough to where they want to obtain heaven, it's the functional things that will get them there, right? So your spirituality doesn't necessarily need to be, certain aspects of culture or religion that we've decided are socially acceptable, but it could be things that will help you obtain that heaven that you're shooting for in a functional way. So an example of this would be like, how do you treat people, right? Jesus said, forgive those that hurt you, right? And to bless those that
curse
despitefully use you. So like, if you think of it in that aspect, it's like, well, your daily interaction with another human being is a good indication of your spiritual health. So that's, I would say the functional things about that would be what I say for spirituality. It's those things that help you obtain heaven.
Yeah. Or that feeling, for me, I have met people that are atheists or things like that, but they still believe in living in a good way, which I think is good. I think another aspect of spiritual health that brings like healthy living is that sense of peace. I think that we're all kind of guided by, you know, what we feel is best or right to do, the right and wrong kind of thing. And as you're doing right, you kind of feel this, there's big benefits in feeling peaceful with yourself. Feeling...
Yeah, a good barometer for spiritual matters is, you know, are you doing the things that you can go to bed at night? Like, can you sleep with yourself at night? And if you're doing those things, then that's like a good barometer to base it off of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, living good. I like that. So, I mean, yeah, this is pretty broad. Thank you for you guys and your input on healthy living. Those are the exact areas I'm, you know, talking about, and I'll add some more stories here, but I appreciate you guys. Any other thoughts on healthy living before I let you get back to the rest of your day? Like, totally impromptu. This is all impromptu, not planned, which I love because I want my podcast to be very authentic, and I appreciate you guys. So, any other last thoughts on healthy living?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, I appreciate your input. Appreciate you guys. So,
Yeah, no
thanks so
problem.
much. Have a good day.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye.
Really fun discussion. And actually, the conversation continued to after, and my son brought up a really good point. He talked about this concept of interconnectedness too. I think that really brings it to the motivation of understanding why are we doing something and it's connected to something else. And so I love that. So I just want to throw that out. Other few things I wanted to share when it comes to defining healthy living is another definition I guess I read across I wanted to read was healthy living is about taking responsibility and making smart health choices for today and for the future. And I like that because when I read that, it triggered a memory in my mind talking about when, this concept of taking responsibility for your health. And this is something I see quite often, actually. One, when I was teaching, I used to teach diabetes classes at the hospital here with their community education and adult community education. And oftentimes I would get into that class and they just learned that they were diabetic, and we were talking about things that they needed to do to live a healthy lifestyle that will help them live longer with this disease. And I remember having a discussion and asking when they first knew and that kind of thing. And one lady raised her hand and she says, I've been diabetic for X number of years. I don't remember how long she had said. And she said, but I didn't know I was diabetic until recently. But she learned that she had been put on metformin, which is for diabetes, and it can be for other things, but she had diabetes a long time before she really understood that's what she had, because she just took whatever medicine that he put her on instead of understanding what that medicine was for and what she could do. And I see now, like in the healthcare field, it seems like there's less and less doctors willing to really educate the patients on what they have, and they don't always have the time. And so I guess what I'm trying to encourage is you to take responsibility for your own health. You're going to be your best health advocate, you, yourself, and you. And while you can put together a team behind you, maybe you need a dietitian, maybe you need a person like me, a coach, to keep you accountable. Maybe you need, somebody at the gym pushing you, or you need a physical therapist, or whatever you need to engage in your corner to help you is great. But ultimately, it's up to you. You decide what you put in your mouth. You decide if you're going to exercise or if you're going to do your meditation that day. You decide if you're going to be blue or sad. And some people, they do need to be on medicine for depression, or maybe they're suicidal, or maybe they need to understand what your triggers are, or those things. But I guess the thing I wanted to say is just take responsibility for your own health. And I think if you do that, don't give it away to someone else that won't even care, really, probably. Understand why are you on medication? What is the medication for? Just because a doctor puts you on medication doesn't mean that that's always the best solution. Maybe you need a second opinion. Maybe you need to try diet and exercise first. Maybe you need to do this or that or this or that. There's a lot of solutions to your problem, and you don't have to say, here, I'm going to give my control to someone else to, make those decisions for me. Definitely they're part of the input, and I definitely think you should go to doctors for things and things like that. But I think it's really important to take your health in your control. You have complete control of your physical health and what you do there. If you have ailments or things that need to be solved, then go get the help that you need for that. Same with mental, emotional, spiritual, just like Griff said about the spinning plates. See which ones are a little more wobbly for you. And again, we all might, like I put a lot of energy into my physical health because that's really important to me. Maybe some more than other people. Other people put a lot more into social, but I do think it's good to find that balance. Find that balance for you. Find what you need and set specific goals in each area. If you haven't done a lot on goal setting, which we may talk about more, I do have video clips on that you can look at. And I would encourage you to set those SMART goals. I'm sure you've heard that acronym before. But in each area, physical, spiritual, intellectual, and social. And my son brought up the financial component. And that ties in, that could be in intellectual, that could be I think that ties into a lot of things. You're just being secure, and that all is part of it. So hope you enjoyed listening in, and thanks for tuning in. Please share this with friends, and I'll see you next time. Until then, live healthy. Thank you again for listening in to the podcast. I wanted to encourage you to like and subscribe, and please share this so others are learning about it so we can continue growing it. You can also find me on Instagram at The Blonde Runner, and that's BLONDE with an E on there. And you can also find me on Instagram at Coach Laura Erickson, and that's LORAERICKSON. And thanks again for listening in, and until next time, live well.